Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're doing something really cool. We're stepping onto the grand stage of one of the longest, most dramatic stories in all of human civilization, a journey through time, why the land of Israel became the center of the ancient world. You know, when we look at this region, we aren't just looking at some random spot on a map. We are looking at thousands of years of continuous human history, literally layered one right on top of the other. It's an absolutely breathtaking story, and it's shaped our modern world in ways that are honestly almost impossible to overstate.
So why did such a small land become the absolute center of the ancient world? That's the core mystery here. Think about it for a second. We're talking about a tiny strip of territory. It doesn't have the massive flooding rivers of Egypt or Mesopotamia. It doesn't have endless gold mines or, infinite fields of wheat. And yet, if you open any global history book, this specific piece of land was the ultimate prize for nearly every single major ancient empire. Why?
Well, let's dive into Section 1. Land bridge between three continents. Geography that created history. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at something called the Fertile Crescent. You might remember this from history class. It's that arch-shaped region stretching all the way from the Persian Gulf, straight through Mesopotamia, and down into Egypt. It is the cradle of civilization, the exact place where agriculture and early human societies first took root. Now, if you map it out, this land sits precisely at the critical southwestern edge of that crescent. Long before modern transportation, before airplanes or the Suez Canal, this was the ultimate ancient highway interchange. It was the crucial physical intersection connecting Africa, Asia, and Europe. Literally everyone and everything had to pass through here. That meant diverse cultures, languages, and early technologies were just constantly colliding. Talk about a busy ancient commute.
And that geographic reality brings us to Section 2, Comparison of Ancient Trade Routes, Controlling the Ancient Global Economy. When we break down the macroeconomy of the ancient world, two massive routes really stand out. First, you've got the Via Maris, or the Way of the Sea. This ran right up the coastline, linking the superpower of Egypt directly to the huge empires of Mesopotamia. Then, just to the east, you have the King's Highway, linking the Arabian Peninsula straight up to Syria. So here's the kicker. Whoever controlled this tiny geographic choke point effectively controlled the massive flow of goods, wealth, and power across the entire ancient world. It's exactly why incredibly powerful ancient cities like Megiddo and Azor didn't just pop up randomly. No, they were deliberately built to dominate these highly specific, highly strategic intersections. Because back then, if you control the crossroads, you literally control the world's economy.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Ancient Powers and Facts on the Ground, a Frontier for Empires. Just look at the sheer volume of superpowers that cascaded through this tiny space. Because of its immense geographic value, this land became a perpetual battleground. It was a frontier where empires constantly clashed, and they left undeniable facts on the ground. The Assyrians brought exile. The Babylonians left a massive layer of ash with the devastating destruction of the First Temple. Then the Persians arrived, enabling the return to Zion. Later on, the Romans left these monumental marks, from King Herod's massive building projects all the way to the devastating scars of the Great Revolt. If you dig just a few meters down in this dirt, you were literally cutting through the physical layers of the greatest empires in human history. It's mind-blowing.
But let's shift gears for a minute and look at Section 4, Beliefs and Values that Change the World, Exporting Morality and Ideas. The really crucial point here is this. While other conquered lands became mere footnotes in history, this region's most enduring and powerful export wasn't physical wealth or gold. It was revolutionary moral ideas. This is the birthplace of monotheism, the radical world-changing belief in a single God. It's where the prophets laid down the foundational concepts of social justice. It produced texts that have profoundly influenced billions of people. It's the birthplace of Christianity, and of course, it's home to Jerusalem, a city considered incredibly holy by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This tiny intersection didn't just host ancient armies, it literally shaped the moral framework for a massive portion of the globe.
The famous author Mark Twain actually captured this sentiment perfectly. After his visit in 1867, he noted that while any other country is just a landscape, the land of Israel is history itself. When you look at a mountain here, you aren't just seeing rocks and dirt. You're seeing the breathtaking geographic stage where these massive historical and spiritual events actually took place. The physical geography and that massive historical weight, they are completely, totally inseparable.
And that brings us to Section 5, The Ordinary Person as History's Hero, Voices from the Dust.
It is so easy to get lost in the grand, sweeping stories of emperors like Alexander the Great or Titus. But history isn't just about the generals and the kings. We have to flip the script a bit and look at the micro level, the everyday people who actually carried the civilization forward day in and day out. Think about the Natufian hunter-gatherers who built some of the first permanent homes, the Canaanite farmers and traders making the local economy run, or the anonymous laborers who dug Hezekiah's tunnel deep underground just to protect Jerusalem's water supply from the terrifying Assyrian army. When we find their 2,700-year-old inscriptions carved right into the solid rock, we are literally hearing the voices of ancient laborers echoing through time. They're telling us how they swung their pickaxes until they finally met in the middle. It is incredibly powerful stuff.
And sometimes, the ordinary person changes history entirely by accident. Case in point, in 1947, a young Bedouin boy was wandering the desert near Qumran, simply looking for a lost goat. He tossed a stone into a dark cave and heard the distinct sound of breaking pottery, and what did he find? The Dead Sea Scrolls, fragile texts that were over 2,000 years old. This discovery completely captivated the world and revolutionized our entire understanding of biblical history. A simple, everyday commoner accidentally uncovering the greatest archaeological find of the 20th century. Talk about irony, right? Massive empires turn to dust, but the humble actions of a shepherd boy end up being remembered forever. Now, I really want you to absorb this number, 3,000. I want you to consider the incredibly rare, unbroken continuity we see here. Look, there are plenty of ancient empires that rose to unbelievable heights only to completely vanish, leaving behind nothing but scattered ruins. But here we see a single people maintaining a deep connection to this exact land, successfully reviving its ancient language, and continuing to read the exact same texts for over 3 millennia. That kind of historical and cultural survival, especially against the crushing weight of all those empires we just talked about, it's truly unparalleled.
Which leaves us with this final, honestly pretty haunting question. Can you truly erase the memory of a people? After the Bar Kokhba revolt, the Roman Emperor Hadrian tried to do exactly that. He deliberately renamed the region and the city of Jerusalem in this calculated attempt to completely sever the historical ties and erase the memory of the people who lived there. But, well, history tells a different story. The attempt to erase the memory actually cemented it, revealing the indestructible power of historical identity. When we study this land, we aren't just learning dates and names. We're witnessing the profound resilience of human memory and ideas across thousands of years. It really makes you wonder, what ideas are we building today that will be remembered 3,000 years from now?